Do you know who I am? Because I am somebody. In fact, I am actually a rock star.
Stevie Nicks, an iconic singer-songwriter known for her sweet voice and almost magnetic stage presence, long personified the mystique of rock and roll glamour. While her career is filled with varied accolades and chart toppers, one lesser-known part of her life has remained primarily unspoken. Now, at 76 years of age, Nicks has finally opened up about one of the greatest loves of her life that influenced her life. Before getting into the revelation, let's revisit the early life and career of Stevie Nicks. Early life of Stevie Nicks. She was born Stephanie Lynn Stevie Nicks on May 26, 1948, at Good Samaritan Hospital in Phoenix, Arizona, to parents Jess and Barbara Nicks. Her father was a vice president with Greyhound, so the family frequently moved around the United States, which meant she had grown up moving around such cities as El Paso, Salt Lake City, and Los Angeles. The love for music came upon Nicks early in life. At 4 years old, she was singing in duet with her grandfather. Much of her musical gift was fostered within the heart of her family, especially under the nurturing of her mother, who shielded her somewhat from the outside world. At age 16, she received a Goya guitar and promptly wrote her first song, I've Loved and I've Lost, commencing her career as a songwriter. Nicks' love story with Lindsey Buckingham. In high school, Nicks joined her first band, The Changing Times, a folk rock harmony group. She then transferred to California's Menlo Atherton High School, where she met Lindsey Buckingham briefly. Buckingham, leader of the psychedelic rock band Fritz, invited Nicks to become their lead singer after 2 of its members left to attend college. This made Fritz a popular local group opening concerts for artists such as Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin, giving Nicks and Buckingham the perfect opportunity to hone their musical talents. They both dated other people during that time, but music brought them together. In the early 1970s, Fritz had disbanded, and Nicks and Buckingham packed their bags for Los Angeles, their romantic and professional partnership starting to blossom. The two released an album titled Buckingham Nicks in 1973, self-titled, but it wasn't a commercial success, though it underscored their songwriting gift combined with their vocal blend. This did not deter them from pursuing a career in music despite their monetary struggles. Late in 1974, Mick Fleetwood of Fleetwood Mac was looking to replace the lost guitar member and offered Buckingham a spot within the band. Buckingham agreed, but on the condition that he could bring Nicks along too. This was the turning point, both professionally and personally. Joining Fleetwood Mac, Nicks brought her signature voice and mystically poetic lyrics to the band. The 1975 self-titled album Fleetwood Mac included such hits as Rhiannon and Landslide, launching them into superstardom. But with fame came the pressures that slowly began to pull their collaboration apart and further damage their already deteriorating romantic relationship. Most especially, the emotional aftermath of their breakup had much to do with the music of Fleetwood Mac, particularly while recording one of the best albums ever, Rumors, back in 1977. With tracks such as Go Your Own Way, written by Buckingham about their breakup, and Dreams by Nicks, they captured that complex dynamic. The words became poignant expressions of lost love and unresolved emotions. Nicks later said that despite all personal problems, they never showed the band's professionalism and damage to the band's career. That somehow translated into a way to put their struggles into creative expression in some of rock's most enduring songs. When Nicks and Buckingham broke up in 1976, they continued with music in Fleetwood Mac, having been able to channel personal pain into music, produce classics that transcend across the world. Silver Springs, written during their breakup, is probably the quintessential longing regret song. It's a story of how love can fuel art, but also tangle human relationships. Many ups and downs, even to Buckingham leaving Fleetwood Mac in 2018, have never diminished Nicks's statements of special connection with him, carved through years of work and life together in the music industry. The legendary Stevie Nicks. Before revisiting her next love story, let's take a jolly good look at her brilliant career. Stevie Nicks had been part of decades of the music industry, but it wasn't until Fleetwood Mac released Rumors in 1977 that success occurred. That album spent 31 weeks at #1 on the Billboard 200 chart and went on to sell more copies than almost any other album in history. Nicks's contribution individual hits, including the single Dreams, cemented rumors as Fleetwood Mac's only #1 single in the United States. These were themes that most certainly resonated with the audiences, much like the personal hell the band had to go through to make this album. Stevie Nicks remained at the core of Fleetwood Mac during the late 1970s and 1980s and took part in the making of their most classic albums, such as Tusk in 1979 and Mirage in 1982. Parallel to this, she also launched herself as a solo artist quite successfully. Her first solo album, Belladonna, which came out in 1981, reached #1 on the Billboard 200 and went quadruple platinum. With hits like Edge of 17 and Stop Draggin' My Heart Around, a duet with Tom Petty, it repositioned her as a major solo artist. It allowed Nicks to experiment with different musical styles while retaining her unique sound. Through the 1980s into the 1990s, Nicks released a spate of successful solo albums: The Wild Heart, 1983, Rock a Little, 1985, and The Other Side of the Mirror, 1989. These records reflected not only her maturing musicianship, but also her taste for collaborations with A-list artists like Prince and Don Henley. Personal struggles, including addiction issues, couldn't remove her from the success graph of rock music. In 1997, Nicks rejoined Fleetwood Mac to celebrate the 20th anniversary of their iconic album, Rumors. That highly publicized reunion proved very popular with concert audiences, and it resulted in the release of The Dance, a live album that further solidified this group as one of the greatest rock acts of all time. This tour was phenomenally successful and marked a resurgence in Nicks's popularity. During the late 1990s and early 2000s, Nicks scaled her solo career back to support Fleetwood Mac. She continued to release new solo material while also contributing to new records by Fleetwood Mac, including their 2003 album Say You Will, once Christine McVie had left the band. Her work in the music industry has been highly recognized. She was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, once in 1998 with Fleetwood Mac and once in 2019 as a solo artist. This made her the first woman to enter this great hall twice. Among many nominations, she won a Grammy Award for Best Female Pop Vocal Performance for Edge of 17 in 1998. In addition to her Grammy, Nicks has received honors from the American Music Awards, MTV Video Music Awards, and many more. Her reach goes way beyond herself, working with many people, such as B.B. King to Sheryl Crow. The impact Nicks has had on music and popular culture runs very deep. Renowned for her unique voice, the real dreamy stage presence, and her specific fashion sense, Nicks has become an enduring symbol of rock femininity. Her music touched generations of fans, thus making her an icon in certain contexts of the cultural landscapes of rock music and a broader sense as well. With her songs, she could always make them personal, which allowed her to express her emotions to her audience. Landslide-type songs are being covered now and then by new artists, showing her strong continued influence on contemporary music. The last years have not been idle for Nicks, who has toured extensively both with and without Fleetwood Mac. She remains an important influence on younger artists, cited more and more by people like Taylor Swift and Florence Welch. Her touring has been accompanied by new releases, including the 2020 single, Show Them the Way. In addition to her musical accomplishments, Nicks has also established herself as a philanthropist. She has supported various causes over the years, including cancer research and the protection of the environment, using her voice to speak about issues close to her heart. Nicks initiated the Stevie Nicks Band of Soldiers, an organization dedicated to supporting U.S. soldiers. This commitment to giving back reflects sensitivity to the ability of music to uplift and heal. Stevie Nicks has had a successful career, demonstrating her ability to adapt to changing circumstances and her commitment to her artistic vision. Her contribution to rock music has indelibly influenced the genre of music and thus established her as one of its most enduring figures. Stevie Nicks' love story with J.D. Souther. First of all, her romance with J.D. Souther is very outstanding in her personal life. Nicks and Souther first met through their mutual connections in the Southern California music scene, where both were emerging as influential songwriters. Their romantic relationship began around 1978, during a time when Nicks was navigating her complex relationship with Lindsey Buckingham and handling the pressures of fame with Fleetwood Mac. Souther, who had also had a pretty big career with the Eagles among others, as well as on his own, had several struggles of his own in the spotlight. Their romance was based on a powerful and intense attachment of an emotional nature, usually reflected in the songs they were writing. Nicks still considered him as one of their greatest loves, and their deep connection summoned many of her unforgettable songs. One major collaboration that was done between them was within the song Gold Dust Woman. His background vocals gave a hauntingly evocative quality to the song. Beyond the personal connection, Nicks and Souther collaborated musically in various ways. His brilliant songwriting skills, mixed with Nicks's ethereal style, gave birth to some memorable duets that capture the essence of their artistic synergy. They played together at iconic places like the legendary Troubadour in Los Angeles, a very pivotal stage for many artists of that era. Their joint efforts were an essential part of defining the dynamic California country rock sound during the late 70s and the early 80s. His work is evident in tracks such as You're Only Lonely, which points out how great he was at blending pop melody with introspective lyrics, a style deeply related to Nicks's songwriting modus. Beyond that personal relationship, their collaboration would mean the world in terms of shaping Southern California rock. Souther was an important figure in country rock, having written two major Eagles singles, Heartache Tonight and Best of My Love. His work with Nicks was probably important in securing her position as one of the leading ladies of rock. This creative partnership between the two typified the synergy that can come about when personal relationships in the music world make for a productive collaboration. Often, poetic depth in the songs paralleled their shared experiences. Love, loss, and longing with which listeners could identify. Even though Nicks and Souther eventually parted ways romantically, their musical legacies continue to affect artists to this day. She speaks tenderly of the time that she spent with Souther, a time when indeed their relationship empowered her songwriting and performances. Those collaborations remain a testament to the creative power of love and its ability to produce timeless music across generations. Nicks's love story with Mick Fleetwood. As for her relationship with Mick Fleetwood, it's that tangled and interesting part of Fleetwood Mac's history that passion, creativity, and the challenge of managing relationships in a high-pressure band environment, and so much more blended to make this critically significant endeavor. Their affair, which took place in 1977 during the Australian leg of the Rumours tour, was during a time when both were caught up in heavy personal turmoil. Most notably, Nicks's tumultuous relationship with Lindsey Buckingham. The affair between Nicks and Fleetwood was brief but intense. At that time, Nicks was still reeling from her breakup with Buckingham, while Fleetwood was having his marital problems. It is further reported that their romance simply heated up during that period when both parties were most vulnerable, finding comfort in each other amidst turmoil at their side. She has looked back on the period they spent together with no regrets, even while realizing the hurt to others. She has called that a very real part of their lives. Fleetwood described the relationship as an unusual situation, as it was very challenging to balance professionalism with personal emotions. To make things further complicated, their dynamic intertwined further in the band since the two were full-fledged members of Fleetwood Mac. The love between them did not last for more than 2 years. However, its impact lasted as a reflection on their friendship, making the dynamics take a different turn after that in the band. The breakup of Nick and Fleetwood certainly didn't hold them back from their professional working relationship. Members of the band Fleetwood Mac were major contributors to the sound and appeal of the band. Nicks's otherworldly vocals, with poetic lyrics combined with Fleetwood's drumming and leadership, helped shape iconic albums like Rumours, which remains one of the best-selling albums in history. This has a deep effect on Fleetwood Mac. The fact that they could always channel their personal experiences into their music lent a personal connection with the fans and an emotive layer to the songs. the band's tough dynamics themselves. Romantic entanglements and breakups became a defining feature of their identity and made them both intriguing and relatable at the same time. In short, their romantic relationships with each other added much to the dynamic surrounding Fleetwood Mac during some of its most successful periods. The emotional intensity of these relationships provided a soap opera element that enthralled not just the band's fans but also the media. This mix of personal conflict and musical genius has gone a long way towards securing Fleetwood Mac's place within the annals of rock music history. Despite the affair being over, Nicks and Fleetwood enjoyed a solid and lasting friendship through all these changes with the band. Their mutual respect as artists helped them never to stop working well together despite their difficulties. Stevie Nicks' love story with Don Henley. The love story between Stevie Nicks and Don Henley is another mark in the history of rock and roll, underlaid with a passionate but short romance, intertwined with their artistic collaborations. Nicks and Henley met through their connections in the Southern California music scene. Their romance blossomed in the wake of Fleetwood Mac's growing success and the rising fame of the Eagles. Nicks recalled Henley as one who treated her with much care, and this relationship introduced her to a more lavish lifestyle jet, a wild spending way of life that imprinted itself on her very being. Their relationship was filled with passion and creative spark, yet it was unquestionably complicated by the pressures fame placed upon them. Nicks has spoken about how Henley's high-rolling lifestyle had effects on her spending as she moved into the high life, which was hard to maintain. Although the romance only lasted a couple of years, they remained great friends for many succeeding years and continued their work in music together. One of the most memorable fruits of their union was the song "Leather and Lace," included in Nicks's first solo album entitled Belladonna in 1981. The song "Leather and Lace" was for Waylon Jennings and his wife Jessie Coulter, but was written while Nicks was with Henley. It is a reflection of love between performers in the music field. The contribution of Nicks' experiences and general themes of relationships that are under public scrutiny. The duet performed the magic of their vocal chemistry, where Nicks's ethereal style happily married Henley's rock sensibility. As a single, "Leather and Lace" joined most of Nicks's signature songs and just furthered her solo artist, showcasing Henley's work. In addition to "Leather and Lace," Henley was involved in other projects around that time. He contributed vocals to tracks such as "The Highwayman," evidence that their work together didn't end in a romantic relationship. Their coming together musically was the epitome of how personal relations have a way of assisting creatives in producing timeless music, echoing among audiences. The collaboration between Nicks and Henley expanded well beyond their relationship to make lasting impacts on the rock music scene of the late 1970s and early 1980s. Seldom does a songwriter have such a privileged position as being able to harness events in one's life into the song, and seldom has that held such emotional weight for listeners. Songs such as "Leather and Lace" reflected both their individual musical talents and deep emotional profundity that may come out of intertwined personal lives. Nicks has spoken at length about how her romance with Henley influenced her songwriting. She has readily admitted that the breakup of their romance informed some of her most heart-wrenching lyrics, as in the song "Sarah," which she confirmed later was inspired by the abortion she had during their time together. This blend of personal history and artistic expression is a trademark for Nicks as a songwriter. Even after their 1978 romantic breakup, Nicks and Henley remained friends and continued with their respective careers of supporting one another. Evidence of this fact showed when Henley took the stage with Nicks during her induction into the 2019 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where they revisited "Leather and Lace" and proved that their connection would last forever. Nicks's love story with Jimmy Iovine. In addition to her relationship with Henley, Stevie Nicks had a notable romance with music producer Jimmy Iovine. Nicks and Iovine began dating in the early 1980s, shortly after her significant success with Fleetwood Mac. At that time, Nicks was focused on establishing her solo identity, and Iovine played a pivotal role in helping her achieve that goal. Their romance developed quickly. As Nicks recounted in her 2018 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction speech, 10 days later, we were living together after their initial meeting. However, their relationship was complicated by the need to keep it secret from Tom Petty, a close friend of Iovine's and a collaborator with Nicks. To maintain professionalism and avoid potential conflict, Iovine would discreetly bring Nicks into his basement whenever Petty visited. This arrangement allowed them to continue their work while keeping their personal lives out of the public eye. Iovine's influence on Nicks's music was profound and far-reaching. He produced Belladonna, an album that achieved significant success, selling over 5 million copies in the US and featuring hit singles like Edge of 17 and Stop Draggin' My Heart Around, a duet with Tom Petty. Nicks has credited Iovine with significantly advancing her solo career, noting that he played a crucial role in shaping her sound during this pivotal period. Iovine's production approach allowed Nicks to explore new musical dimensions while preserving her distinctive style. Known for his ability to blend various genres, Iovine complemented Nicks's ethereal vocals and poetic lyrics. Their collaboration resulted in a sound that resonated deeply with audiences and solidified Nicks's position as a successful solo artist. The partnership between Nicks and Iovine left a lasting impact on both their careers. For Nicks, it marked a successful transition from being part of Fleetwood Mac to establishing herself as a prominent solo artist. The success of Belladonna set the stage for subsequent albums like The Wild Heart, 1983, and Rock a Little, 1985, further showcasing her growth as a musician. For Iovine, working with Nicks bolstered his reputation as a leading producer in the music industry. His ability to navigate the complexities of producing high-profile artists while managing personal relationships became a hallmark of his career. Although their romantic relationship was relatively brief, ending shortly after the release of Belladonna, Nicks and Iovine maintained a professional rapport for years afterward. They continued to collaborate on various projects, demonstrating that personal connections can indeed enhance creative partnerships. Nicks's love story with Kim Anderson. Another notable chapter in Nicks's life was her brief marriage to Kim Anderson. In 1982, Robin, a close childhood friend of Nicks, was diagnosed with terminal leukemia while pregnant with her son Matthew. The news of Robin's illness and subsequent death in 1983 profoundly impacted Nicks. Just 2 days after Robin's passing, Matthew was born prematurely at 6.5 months. In the wake of this tragedy, Nicks felt a profound sense of responsibility towards Kim and the newborn baby. Amidst their shared grief and confusion, Nicks and Kim decided to marry 3 months after Robin's death. This decision was driven not by love but by their mutual attempt to cope with their loss. Nicks later reflected on this period, stating, "We didn't get married because we were in love. We got married because we were grieving." The marriage lasted only 3 months before they divorced, and both acknowledged that their emotional turmoil influenced their decision. The brief marriage between Stevie Nicks and Kim Anderson had profound repercussions for both individuals. Following their divorce, they ceased all communication. Nicks expressed that although she deeply cared for Matthew, the emotional weight of their shared history made it difficult for her to sustain a relationship with Kim. In interviews, she revealed that they couldn't deal with each other at all after their separation. Despite the end of their marriage, Nicks remained dedicated to Matthew. She preserved memorabilia from Robin's life to share it with him when he was older. Over the years, Nicks reconnected with Matthew during his teenage years and has played an active role in his life, including supporting his college education financially. Matthew named his daughter after his late mother, calling her Robin, and refers to Nicks as Grandma Stevie, which underscores the enduring bond between them despite the tragic circumstances that initially brought them together. Nicks's experiences with Robin and her brief marriage to Kim Anderson have significantly influenced her music. The emotional depth derived from these events is reflected in songs like Gypsy, which evokes feelings of longing and nostalgia for lost times and people. Though initially intended for her solo work, Gypsy became one of Fleetwood Mac's notable tracks on their album Mirage, 1982, illustrating how personal experiences can be transformed into powerful artistic expressions. Nicks has often spoken about how her relationships, both romantic and platonic, have shaped her songwriting. The loss of Robin was particularly impactful, influencing not only her personal life, but also enriching her creative output as she channeled her grief into her music. Nicks' love story with Joe Walsh. But one of the most fascinating love stories of Nicks's was with Joe Walsh because it was soaked in romance, creativity, and the dynamics of how to keep a relationship inside the confines of a rock and roll lifestyle. Walsh and Nicks met in 1983, and their rapport was instant. According to Nicks, it was love at first sight. She remembers walking up to Walsh in a hotel bar in Dallas and being automatically mesmerized. That was a wild romance for both in the turbulent time of their lives. Each was facing the challenge of fame and personal tragedies. Later, Nicks would refer to Walsh as one of her greatest loves, thus emphasizing the level of their connection despite all the hardships. Their relationship included challenges related to their lifestyles, which involved substance use. The two musicians agreed that the addictions were the marked point leading to the breakdown of their romance. Nicks said that Walsh at one time told her how he was afraid because their drug habits were out of control. One day, Walsh told her, "The only way to save both of us is for me to leave." The two had to fight difficult personal lives. But while together, Nicks and Walsh collaborated musically. The most evident collaboration between the two was on Walsh's 1985 album, Confessor, for which Nicks played an integral part in writing much of the material. She co-wrote the track, Shotgun, which pretty much speaks volumes about what the whole record and their turbulent relationship were all about. Nicks also wrote, Has Anyone Ever Written Anything for You?, which was the direct result of her intense emotions concerning Walsh. The song describes her emotional attachment to him, as well as her deep respect. Writing this clearly shows that Stevie Nicks has taken the personal influence of life's happenings and used it effectively to produce touching lyrics. In her songliner notes, she very poetically describes a meeting of herself and Walsh, touching base on love at first sight. The impact of their relationship extended from their personal life into the sphere of music and career. Contributions that Nicks made to Walsh's album Confessor have underlined her skills as a songwriter and her capability to work fruitfully with other performers. Even though critically received in a very lukewarm manner, Confessor is an essential staple in documenting their creative relationship during such a fragile time. Nicks has spoken at length about how her love life informs her songwriting. The emotional depth of her romance with Walsh provided, of course, rich material for her music, allowing her to explore threads of love, loss, and longing. This, of course, is one of the hallmarks of Nicks's career, taking personal pain and turning it into art. Although it proved to be of short duration, the relationship that mushroomed between Nicks and Walsh would scar both their lives. After the breakup, they still shared a great respect for each other as artists and expressed regret over the tragic end in later interviews. Walsh said their relationship was significant in terms of friendliness and respect, so despite all the difficulties, they found something real. Many find Nicks's ability to handle personal adversities while keeping the gold ball of her career rolling inspiring. She has often said, "Be true to yourself," and encourages people to believe in themselves despite all the pressure from society. What are your thoughts on Nicks's love life, especially the one she had with Joe Walsh? Share them with us in the comments section below.